If you're a New York Knicks fan, you need to pay close attention to what's happening right now because this could end up being one of the biggest decisions the franchise makes after winning a championship. And before we get started, I want to hear from you. Do you think Karl-Anthony Towns should take a pay cut to help keep this roster together? Drop your answer in the comments right now because this debate is about to divide the entire fan base. When the Knicks traded for Karl-Anthony Towns, there were a lot of questions. Some people wondered if he could handle the pressure of New York. Others questioned whether his style of play could translate to championship basketball. Fast forward to today, and those questions have basically disappeared. Towns proved he wasn't just another star putting up numbers. He became one of the most important pieces on a championship team. He delivered offensively, impacted games defensively, and gave the Knicks a dimension they simply didn't have before. But now comes the difficult part. Winning a championship is hard. Keeping a championship team together is even harder. The Knicks are entering a period where every dollar matters. The front office has done an incredible job building this roster, but the reality of today's NBA is brutal. Teams can quickly go from contenders to cap space nightmares if they make one wrong financial decision. And that's exactly why the Karl-Anthony Towns contract situation has become so important. As things stand, Towns is eligible for a massive extension worth hundreds of millions of dollars. From a player's perspective, it's easy to understand why he would want every dollar possible. Every athlete has a limited career, and nobody should expect a player to voluntarily leave money on the table. But from the Knicks' perspective, that's where things get complicated. Because if Towns demands the absolute maximum available contract, the Knicks could find themselves facing some incredibly difficult decisions in the near future. Think about it. This team isn't built around one superstar. It's built around a core. Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and several key role players who contribute every single night. The reason this team became champions wasn't because one player carried everyone else. It was because the entire group fit together. And if keeping that group together becomes impossible financially, then suddenly the Knicks are facing questions nobody wants to ask. Who stays? Who leaves? Who becomes too expensive? And honestly, as a fan, that's what frustrates me the most. We spent years waiting for the Knicks to build something special. Years. We've watched failed rebuilds. We've watched disappointing seasons. We've watched stars choose other destinations. And now that New York finally has a championship-caliber roster, the last thing anyone wants to see is the team break apart because of financial restrictions. Let me know in the comments. If you could only keep one player between Towns and another major piece of the core in the future, who would you choose? I'm genuinely curious because there are no easy answers. Now here's where things get really interesting. There's a scenario where everybody wins. Instead of pushing for the absolute maximum salary possible, Towns could agree to a slightly smaller annual salary in exchange for long-term security and guaranteed money. Would that still make him incredibly wealthy? Absolutely. Would it still represent a huge commitment from the Knicks? Without question. But it could also provide the organization with enough flexibility to maintain more of the championship roster around him. And that's the key issue. Not whether Towns deserves a huge contract. Most fans agree he does. The real question is whether both sides are willing to find a middle ground that helps sustain a title contender for years instead of maximizing one contract in one specific moment. Because let's be honest, the NBA has changed. Teams are being punished more aggressively than ever for excessive spending. The league's financial rules have created an environment where even wealthy franchises can't simply spend their way out of every problem. That's why front offices across the league are constantly looking for creative solutions. And that's why the next conversations between the Knicks and Karl-Anthony Towns could have enormous implications. As a Knicks fan, I can't help but feel a little nervous. Not because I doubt Towns. Not because I doubt the front office. But because we've seen how quickly things can change in this league. One injury. One bad contract. One difficult negotiation. That's all it takes to alter a franchise's future. The encouraging part is that the Knicks have earned some trust. Over the past several years, this organization has made smart decisions more often than not. Moves that were criticized initially ended up working. Risks ended up paying off. And now they're operating from a position of strength instead of desperation. Still, this feels different. This feels like one of those moments that people look back on years later and say, that's where everything changed. Either the Knicks find a way to preserve their championship core and remain contenders for years, or they start making difficult sacrifices much sooner than expected. And if I'm being completely honest as a fan, I hope everyone involved understands what's at stake. Championship windows don't stay open forever. The Knicks finally climbed to the top of the mountain. Now the challenge is staying there. Before we wrap this up, I want your opinion. Should Karl Anthony Towns prioritize maximizing every dollar of his next contract, or should he consider taking less money if it helps the Knicks remain championship contenders? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is only getting started. And if you enjoyed this analysis, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps the channel reach more Knicks fans. Subscribe if you're passionate about New York Knicks news, roster updates, trade rumors, and everything happening around this team. We're entering one of the most important off-seasons in recent Knicks history, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's go Knicks.